Welcome back to Web3 DJs. Today we have a great guest. We've got CryptoDilly. He is the host of Speculation Alley. They make a YouTube show about everything 10K TF and more. We may have a special guest joining us in a little bit, which is his other host, A-Bomb. But yeah, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. I know you're traveling a little bit later, so thank you for taking the time.
Heck yeah. Excited to be here.
Hey, I got to ask, actually. I know Hofstra's been hyping you up for a while, and even before we talked about it on our last show, he was sending me and everybody else in the group, your videos, trying to get us all to get into 10KTF, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But before we get started, the question on everyone's mind, where does CryptoDilly come from? What's that name about?
Honestly, I was new to Web3. I joined with Oniforce was the first project that I actually found. And my name's Dylan, so Dilly, right? And so I just put CryptoDilly, and it's stuck ever since.
I didn't know if you were just like a big fan of the Budweiser campaign or the Bud Light campaign, the Dilly. Right there it is. Yes, sir. So great. That's great.
Yeah, can you share my screen? I just want to pull up their page right here. So this is their YouTube. Yeah, it's called Speculation Alley, and all of these videos. I mean, I didn't get into 10K. Well, I did get into 10K TF, and then I got out of it because I couldn't understand the project. And your breakdown, whatever that 2-hour breakdown, where you started from the beginning and then you went all through it, it kind of blew my mind because I was like, dude, how much time did you spend going down this rabbit hole? And then you obviously made a YouTube show about it, but I mean, it was like the most comprehensive breakdown of the project, and I was sold. And I didn't understand, but after I watched that, I went down that path. So yeah, how did you start this, and what was the path to making Speculation Alley?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it started. That first video was actually a paid gig. I actually got one of my buddies is like, "Hey, I want you to come into our alpha group and like do a presentation on 10KTF because we have no idea where to start." And I was like, "All right, like bet." And he's like, "I'll pay you $500." And I was like, "Cool." So I like put this presentation together and tied all the different connections to Gaio Siri people and like the team behind it, and like I broke it down. And I honestly didn't expect the video to be 2 hours long, but after we did the whole presentation, it was like in a Discord meeting, like that was how it was done. And after we finished it up, Crypto Rye, he like hits me up, he's like, "Hey, like we should make that into a YouTube video. How do you feel about me like making this a video on YouTube?" And I was like, "Go for it. Like, I don't care." And then, we left it alone, but he has like all these other videos breaking down like crypto and like different things about alpha like plays and different things like that on his YouTube channel. And that video ended up like blowing up, and it has like 4.5K views. And so he was like, "Wow, like that's crazy." And it wasn't until I went to NFT NYC that I actually met a bunch of the people within the project, a lot of the community members, and I had no idea how many people I had onboarded from that video. Like, you are not the only person that's told me like, "Dude, without your video, I would not be here." I literally found that, I watched it, and like it was a no-brainer, and I swept the floor. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that's crazy." And even like some of the like really big community members, A-Bomb is one of them. I onboarded him, and it was just phone calls with him. Like after he ended up joining the project, we got obsessed with the storyline and speculation of what could be and what was going to be released next and how we were going to be involved and everything about it. And so I would be calling him like, "Dude, Gucci's involved. This is what's going to happen next. This is what's going to happen." So I always wore tinfoil about what was going to come, and it was a lot of hopium. And, as we know, within 10KTF, it's a lot of copium because things happen. And then, you think that you're going to get this and it doesn't actually happen. But that's where Speculation Alley really came from, was after we did that launch and I went to NFT NYC and we really got into more speculation. I was like, let's just start a video series about all these different topics and really dissect it and break it down. And the whole purpose is we have it on multiple platforms. We have it on Spotify, Apple, podcasts, like everything that you can go into. But the video format is really like the bread and butter. Like that's what we want to really capitalize on and create like these visual compilations of what 10KTF could be. And what's interesting is that all the videos are completely speculative. We have no idea what's coming. Like we don't even know anything. But what we like to do is take all the different things that have happened, because we have this wide range of knowledge of the history of the project and how they're connected to all these different things. And we want to make these, formulated connections to all the different pieces. So that way it can be conveyed to somebody who's, just joining the project or learning about 10KTF and really be like, oh, that makes sense. I can see how that connects and that connects. And this is a possibility of what could happen. And so that's something like our Puma video. We have known that Puma is involved in the project, and then at NFT NYC they announced like a collaboration and a partnership. And then a Vogue business article comes out the next day, and they announce it there as well. And then I actually found out from pre-mint, because I have a collector's pass, that this big cat brand is actually going to be rolling out an NFT project. And I immediately like messaged Michael Figge in the Discord, like, hey, is Puma launching a project this week? What's going on? And he didn't respond, but 2 days later they end up launching their project. And I ended up joining in their Discord and like, hey, where's 10KTF? Like I see all your partners and all the different people that are involved with your Web3, journey so far, but 10KTF is a big part of that, and they're your partner. Where are they at in this mix? So we start to dissect and really like deep dive into what that means and what that could mean for the future of 10KTF holders as well as the Puma holders.
So maybe we can just backtrack for the people that don't know what 10KTF is. Can you give us like a Cliff Notes version of what 10KTF is?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. And it really is. The way that I would describe 10KTF is it is a project that is centered around IP for the top blue chip collections. And what I mean by that is IP is intellectual property. All these different projects actually give the holder of an NFT intellectual property rights, which allow you to make derivative art off of your NFT that you own. And so it started actually in the Bored Ape Yacht Club Discord. They just started leaking these different high tops that had like a Bored Ape image actually put on the high top, which is the shoes. They very eerily look like Air Force Ones. And so when you look at these shoes, people were like, oh, cool. And it only cost 0.05 ETH to mint. And at the time, Ethereum was probably about $3,500. And it was during the bull run of, NFTs. So a lot of people were like 0.05 ETH, like that's nothing. Like, sure, I'll jump into this thing that I know nothing about. Right. And so it started out that way. It was complete mystery. There was no like web page about the project. There was nothing. There wasn't even really like a Discord to really join. So then we literally like started to get these different images. And I remember I bought high tops in a day pack from the Oni Discord because they were leaked in there 2 days after it was leaked into the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So I ended up minting, a couple different items, and regretfully I had, my bigger, holdings of Oni in my, cold storage. And I was like, I'm not going to connect my wallet to this random website. Like I'm not going to, risk that. So I only minted on like a couple Onis that I ended up selling that I no longer have. But, those are what we call the Genesis items of the collection. And within the collection, what started to take place is that they opened up their Discord, they started onboarding people, and then a story started to emerge. And the way that they tell the story is actually using multiple mediums of media. So it's not just told in Discord, it's not just told in Twitter, it's not just told on Twitch. It's told in all these different ways all at once, which is very different than any other project was doing. And so the way that they started it was a tweet, and it was like 10.7, right? And there was like a knife, and we ended up seeing like Wagmi-san basically owes protection money, and we as a community and people outsiders looking in, we have no idea, why is this old man need to pay protection money? What's this all about? And so it started to create like this sense of wonder, like, oh, what is this, what's going on here? And then a more further of the story develops, and as the story continues, it always happens on Thursday at 6 p.m. and they release a tweet, and their tweet then coincides with the music that's actually being played in Discord as well. So as we do, Thursday parties is what they're called, and basically in Discord you can join the voice chat, and Midori, she's mixing it up, playing different music that coincides with like the energy and the feel that they want you to feel as somebody experiencing this moment. And so then whenever the like tweet gets dropped, based off of what the tweet is saying, the music changes and things start to kind of like pump up or, go more solemn depending on what the actual storyline is telling. And then they also then all the speculation starts to come, right? And a lot of the community will rally around whatever's happening within the storyline by like saying, okay, Boss Wolf or Boss Ape, or the Boss Toads, they just did this. What does that mean for us? Like, how's that going to play out? And so, like in the early stages, we saw, for example, the Boss Toad ended up like stealing a bunch of bags from Wagmi-san's shop, and this is how strategic and wise this team is. It's not in the story that actually happened on Twitter. What actually happened is you had to be paying attention to the wallet that Wagmi-san is in control of. And what happened is that a bunch of bags actually got swept off the floor, right? And they're all going into this wallet called Boss Toad. And everybody's like, what's going on here? Like, why are these bags being taken? And what it was Boss Toad was actually stealing out of the shop. And the shop is the OpenSea website, right? Like the marketplace. And so at that point in time, Wagmi-san's like, hey, they're after me. Like, I need somewhere to, put my materials because they're going to steal everything from me. And so after that happened, we got an airdrop like the next week of all these materials. We didn't know what the materials were for, how they were going to be used in the storyline or anything like that. But they've done such a clever job of telling the story in a different way than what you've seen across anything. It would have been very easy for them to release a tweet and say, hey, like, Boss Toad stole a bunch of stuff. But really, we ended up like piecing the story together because we're like, oh, these backpacks and high tops are being swept off the floor, meaning that Boss Toad is stealing them. And then like later on, they tell the story further through the blockchain. They'll tell the story further through, Discord and the way that we're communicating with each other. Battletown now is a medium that they use to actually like further progress the story. And then also within like 10KTF, the actual website, which we now see this beautiful rendered photo of the island floating, which is just finished after the season finale that just happened. So hopefully that was a little bit of like context into the storyline and what 10KTF is. I would say that really what it is in a nutshell is that it's a storytelling NFT project that keeps you fully immersed with less apparatus and more story. And they want to keep you on the edge of your seat by allowing you to the actual like the community to be the star of the show, right? Like as community members, we're involved in the project, and what we say, that could end up being part of the storyline and how it progresses. And we saw that more recently whenever 3 community members who started the Damn Show, Diamond Hands, Maybe Netta, and Atare, were actually featured in one of the Battletown missions as team captains, right? And so for them to adapt and be able to play that into the story and then like really quickly run with that, it really shows, how versatile this team is. And at the ending credits of the finale video, you can see how large their team really is too. I mean, we knew Labs, obviously we got some heavy hitters like Guy Osiri, Beeple, Tim Smith, and Michael Figgy. But when you really look at the team behind all these videos and the animation and stuff, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like incorporating your community into the storyline is something that's like really going to drive other community members to do better, and they're going to want that, right? So they're going to become more engaged with the product. It's kind of funny. There's a book called Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products, and there's a lot of parallels between what that book suggests and what you hear for 10KTF. So I got to ask you, let's say somebody watches your video or your breakdown, or by some other medium decides, I do want to take this step and get involved in 10KTF. Like, what does a starter pack look like? What should somebody kind of do to get involved in the ecosystem, to have full access, all of that sort of thing?
That's a great question. And honestly, what I would do is I would direct you to get onto Discord and really like start to communicate with the community members. When you get into the Discord, the general chat, like the community really like they'll extend an olive branch and they will tell you everything that you need to know about where to start, how to get involved, and what to buy. And that would be the next thing is we actually have a thread that was created by maybe Netta called the newcomers package. And it actually has like my video listed there. It has like breakdown, different infographics, different consumable content that as a newcomer to the project that has no idea what they're doing, they can actually quickly kind of get involved and pick apart what the project is and what they need to do to get inside, right? And then if I were to like suggest an item that you could purchase, not financial advice by any means, but
right, yeah.
I would start with a Genesis item. Throughout the history of the project, we have said that Genesis is king, and shopkeepers who are actually the moderators in the Discord, who are also team members, the shopkeepers have suggested that Genesis is king. And a Genesis item is if you go to the properties tab and you actually look down, you can see type and it will say Genesis. Genesis does not say crafted in the main image of the actual NFT itself. So there's only 14,761 of those, and they were the original like pieces to the collection. And it's been theory or speculated that the Genesis holders will get rewarded. But the other thing about a Genesis item is that a lot of the stuff, when I first got into the project and then much later hearing people like getting involved in the project, they're like, why would the hell would I want, somebody else's mutant ape on a backpack? Or
right.
Why would I want somebody else's cool cat on shoes? And, I think that's the hurdle for a lot of people. And it looks really dumb from an outsider, like looking in. And that's why I would suggest a Genesis item, because the item itself, like if you go buy a crafted item from the marketplace, like there's no real significant value to that more than that. It'll just give you points in Battletown. But the Genesis item has some potential that I could actually yield something further down the line. But where the project really takes a turn is that all these different items that you have, they actually have a point allocation that allows you to load into Battletown. And Battletown is the in-game app where like we actually will send avatars on what we call missions. And these missions, we do probably one every week, usually on average, that furthers the storyline. And within the mission, you basically will select, let's say you have a cool cat. You would select your cool cat, and then you can add in your shoes. You can add in your day pack. You can add in, the different items in these different slots. And each of the items that you load in actually have a different point allocation. So level 1, those are like high tops, day packs, different things like that. But we recently had a combat crate drop, which actually released level 2 items. And the level 2 items are like combat gear. So Kevlar vest, battle helmet, like different things like that. And they actually have a higher point allocation for Battletown. And Battletown, the idea is to get as many points as possible, because the higher amount of points that we get in the missions will hit different tiers. So there's bronze tier, there's silver tier, there's gold tier. And depending on what tier that we hit as a community, we actually get a reward at the end of that. And so the reward for all these different Battletown missions so far has been badges. But within some of the Battletown missions, we've done, I think there's 20 total missions that have actually taken place. And there's different ones that have yielded, material. So if you actually load it in with a high valuation of points, maybe you get rubber. instead of cloth, and rubber is more well, I guess right now rubber's less expensive, but depending on what item you get, like if you load it in with more points, you're going to get something that's maybe a little bit more valuable than somebody who loads in with fewer points, right? And so the idea is there's snapshots that are taken, and the most recent mission that we did, there was we hit silver tier, and there was a snapshot taken. And so snapshots, what we know that we will come of that is that we're going to get airdrop something, right? Or we're able to claim something from Battletown. So in the beginning stages without Battletown, we would just get airdropped items. But now that they've released Battletown, now there's the ability to claim rewards, which takes away the element from the team having to pay for all the gas and all the fees to actually transact on the network. It basically makes it to where the holder can pay to claim their item, right? But in the beginning stages, I mean, that's another beautiful thing of their storytelling is like, you'd have Wagmi-san in the middle of New York City with a camera, and, they wouldn't say, specifically that was going to be a snapshot for anything, but we know that there was 6 different rolls of film that he had, and every time that he would take a picture, we would end up getting something. So as the story progressed, the community is able to basically derive what's going to happen based off of these pictures that are released on Twitter. So it's been an amazing journey. And season 1 just wrapped up. They just did their season finale, and they just did an event in New York City with some of the community, and maybe Netta and Atari, they actually hosted an event like karaoke night in New York. And out of the blue, Michael Figge and Trevor actually showed up, and they were there with the community, like hanging out, having drinks, just doing the thing. And what's really cool is that now they actually are fans of us. Like as community members, they've actually said like, yeah, no, like we really like enjoy Diamond Hands, like what he's done for the community. And like, we can't wait to see what he does or how he takes things with the information that we release. And that mission where, is built around the team captains, like they just ran with it, and they ended up running like these like media campaigns, right? To like get votes from the community, like, hey, pick me, like you want me as your captain. So they actually released like campaign videos, like each one released their own video. And, it's cool because the community is involved in such a different level than most projects that you see for NFTs.
So 10KTF stands for 10,000 True Friends, right?
Yes.
And the reason that they don't advertise a lot of this stuff is they want the hardcore NFT people that are going to be in this for the long haul, is the way I understand it. Is that?
No, yeah. So I think there's actually an article that was released called 10,000 True Fans. And it kind of gets pretty granular. I mean, the way that they actually talk about people is like, you want to create, it's 1,000. 1,000 is actually what it is. But if you can get somebody to buy one of your products for, $100, and you have 1,000 people that will do that, you can live off of it, right? So the article actually suggests that you create these raving fans that whenever you release anything, they will go out and they'll do whatever it takes to actually get their hands on it and purchase it. And so, the spin of 10,000 True Friends, I think it really comes from that article that was written. And I forget the name of the author of that article, but when you really look at that, it suggests that, whatever 10KTF is involved in, and whatever product or whatever brand that they get involved with, that we as community members that are hardcore, like really deep into the nitty gritty of it, we're going to obviously be involved with that and be excited about where it goes. And so, with 10KTF, I think that's what's interesting about the way that the project started. And you said it the best, as you got involved in 10KTF originally, and you had these items, but you just didn't know what to do or how the story kind of like filtered out. So you ended up probably selling it, right? And what happens is that if you have these people that are really excited about the project and they're really invested and they're willing to deep dive into what's next and what's coming, you've created an engagement farm, if you will, right? And the way I look at 10KTF is, you have 4,000 to 6,000 people that come on the internet every Thursday and they interact with your webpage. That's engagement that then from a marketing standpoint, you can go to a Web2 brand like Gucci or Puma or any brand that you want and say, I can guarantee you 5,000 people will actually interact with your product next week. How powerful is that? From a marketing standpoint, like that's insane, right? So not only do you have a business model that's built on storytelling, but the thing about 10KTF from a strategic standpoint of business is that you don't have to rely on the Ponzi-nomics of people buying your NFT and just rebuying back in, right? And you basically are pulling money back out of your liquidity pool, which is your fans. So when you create a marketing company that's attractive to Web2 companies coming in, it creates a lucrative business model that then you can reward those people that are true fans.
That's awesome. And so I want to hit on something that you said initially. So you talked about, your page essentially, by your own admission, has been a lot of speculation, right? Your channel, and that sort of thing. Based on the things that you've kind of speculated about so far, if any of them could happen, like what would be the one thing that you are really looking forward to and like really hoping comes to play in this project in 10KTF?
So I've been really big on that we're getting land. I'm probably the ringleader. Okay. I don't know if maybe I'm not, I don't know, but like I've been saying that we're getting land for a long time. And
other side land.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this stirred a lot of stuff up in the Web3 world, actually, this notion, right? People went and looked at like the max supply of land in the contract. And then I think Yuga Labs maybe took it down in a lot of places except on OpenSea. Okay, so now we know who one of the people behind this was. Yeah, this caused some ruckus in the Web3 world for sure.
I actually released a Twitter thread on it, and then we have a video that actually deep dives into the speculation of that. And what's interesting is that, Yuga Labs pitch deck that was released actually talks about the land drop and how there's 200,000 plots of land. What's really interesting about that is that 15% go to developers. And now that we're getting further into the process of the other side releases, we're seeing that 10KTF, or at least we knew, is heavily involved in the storytelling aspect of the product. But also, we're seeing that they may be involved on a larger scale. And so even if, 10KTF, let's say that they get, 5,000 plots of land. Well, if the fact of it is that, the Voyagers are rewarded for participation in the Voyager's journey, well, that means that technically, because the same allocation and revenue stream is supposed to be the exact same, that those basically would be mirrored, right? So that means that there's 30,000 plots of land that would be released for developers. So it's very easy to assume that, if 10KTF were to actually receive X number of land plots, that they would want their fans, their true community, to be able to build around what they have already built on the other side. And it's my speculation that New Tokyo is built on the other side, and it's a floating land. And what's interesting is that if you go to Grimecraft's page on Twitter, you can actually watch the first trip. He did a preview. The first video that other side released is actually basically Curtis waving on a bridge. And he's running, and he runs over another bridge, but in the distance you see a floating land of New Tokyo. And what's crazy is that if you actually extrapolate that out, you can see the connection in so many other different places. With the video that you have Wagmi-san driving over the freeway and coming into town where the kaiju is, you actually see him pass by a gas station, and the gas station actually has floating land in the background. And there it says "just pay gas," okay, on the billboard.
Yeah, I got you.
Is this the right guy right here? This Grimecraft?
Yep, he's a game developer. You're gonna want to. I mean, it's really deep down in there. Obviously, he makes a lot of tweets, but like with if you go to the other side, Meta on Twitter, you can scroll all the way down to like their first released post. It's actually the preview of Curtis running over the bridge and, that land in the background. And it's very easy to disseminate the information that is, potentially new Tokyo, right? Because the shapes of the land, and you see like the the cool cat, like basically building in the background, and like the Oni building. It's very similar. So a lot of the stuff that is broken down, the reason that it makes a lot of sense that, obviously 10KTF would get land is obviously they want to involve their community, but also you got to look at the people that are involved in the project. You heard on the Full Send podcast, which I see you're wearing a Happy Dad cap. So with Garga, that they talked about, Beeple, right? And they said Beeple was heavily involved in, helping them launch the brand to the like meteoric rise that they actually had. They actually gave him a lot of praise. And then they talk about how that introduction to Guy Osiri took place, right? And it was through Beeple. As we know, Beeple, Guy Osiri, they're both founding members of We Knew Labs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you know, We Knew Labs is actually the creator of 10KTF. Okay, so if you have Guy Osiri, who is also, the one founder, represents Red Hot Chili Peppers, Madonna, you have World of Women, and you have Yuga Labs that he actually represents. He was also on the cover of Vanity Fair as Man of the Year, right? And so when you break that down and disseminate that information, it's very easy to think that, 10KTF has been part of Yuga Labs' plan, or Yuga Labs is part of 10KTF's plan to really be involved in the further, build out of the project itself. And when you think about Guy Osiri's involvement in the project, these guys are gonna,
it comes full circle.
It does. And when you think about Guy Osiri, the guy, whatever he touches turns to gold. And the thing is about Guy Osiri is that him being involved in this project, that, things are going to obviously come to fruition from that. And so it's very easy to like make all these connections and assume that 10KTF is definitely a part of Yuga Labs' plan. And a really big connection, this is how this whole speculation actually started, was the first release trailer had like all of Yuga Labs, cast in the submarine. 2 days before that video released was whenever Yuga Labs actually struck a deal to get IP rights for Meebits and CryptoPunks, which ironically are also featured in that video. And in the video, you see this, submarine rise out of the ethereal river, and you have every one of Yuga Labs' assets in there. And then you also have Cryptodes. You have World of Women, who is represented by Guy Osiri, right? And you have all these different pieces that, you have to have IP rights for. But what's very ironic is they're all the parent NFTs to no other than 10KTF. Now, obviously, 10KTF since has added more parents into their ecosystem. I think we're up to 16. But with that being the breakdown, you can see massive connections to the other side. And it makes sense that 10KTF will be involved. And that's where, I have this massive theory that, we're getting land.
So if you were going to put a percent on the speculation that's come true, what would you say your guess rate has been so far?
I don't know. I've come up with some tinfoil ideas. I would say, let's say 20 or 30%, I think that to say that I have hit it, 80 or 100% of the time is definitely not true. There's definitely some things where, I'm off by a little bit. And what's interesting though, is that I wouldn't say that a lot of the speculation I can take all the credit for. What's crazy is that I have a lot of different people within the community that post stuff on, Twitter, and then subconsciously, I'll pick that up. And then I start running on this idea that actually was created by, somebody within the community that had posted it a month ago. Right. And so we actually pick up information subconsciously. And a really good example of this is actually Saskatoon Squatch. He is one of the largest holders within 10KTF. And he's actually been one of my biggest supporters, you know, in the NFT space. We actually got involved in Oni at the same time, and he commissioned me for several derivatives. And that's how we built a relationship. And we literally bought, you know, NFTs in tandem. And then one day he was like, dude, I'm done with like chasing projects. I'm going to do a conviction play. I'm going all in on 10KTF. He now has like 300, you know, like NFT items from 10KTF. So he's one of the largest holders, and he has some amazing speculation. I think his Twitter handle is Squatch like JPG. And Squatch like JPG is his
anyway. I'm sure
but
shout out to Squatch or Saskatoon
Squatch.
Yeah, you love the names in this Web3 space. It's just like, you know, I can see why people don't take it serious. Oh, that's my buddy, you know, Saskatoon Squatch. You know, that's how you refer to these people when you see them.
Oh, for sure.
What's crazy about him though too is like he's, like I said, he supported me a long way, and we actually have gotten to know each other pretty well. And I've actually like held, you know, in real life, like scavenger hunts for him where he goes and finds like books and different things. So it's pretty cool. I mean, you think of Web3, you think of NFTs, and I think it's just a lot of people are like, you know, like why can't I just screenshot that or right click save or whatever. And what's really interesting is like looking at all the projects that are actually powering through and building through the bear market. That's where you really see like the sense of community and the people that are here to stay. And like it's not a matter of like the floor price fluctuating, because we're like telling a story that's so immersive and exciting that you just want to be a part of the journey.
Yeah, just looking at some of these names, I mean, some are bigger than others, but like Wolf Game, Nouns, like even Oni. I mean, Oni was huge at one point. It was, I think, wasn't it Jake Paul that bought like a $700,000 Oni force?
I think so. Yeah.
Logan Paul bought a commie.
Yeah, he bought in, and then I don't know. I guess there was some drama or something like that. But the thing that I guess if you're looking to get in the project, that's really good is it's connected to this. And so your pieces get the same value as someone that has a Bored Ape if you get a backpack and you're entering into the battles. And so if you're looking at like a less expensive entry point, that's what I did. I bought Oni One Force and World Women Galaxy just to get used to the project. And I got the same point value, I guess, as some people have like just tons of stuff though.
Yeah. I mean, my girlfriend, I ended up getting her just a Genesis Mutant Ape day pack, right? And like she loads that into Battletown and she's a part of it, and she feels, you know, like she's part of the story, right? And like that's what it's all about, is like it doesn't matter if you have one item or if you have 100. It's that you can be a part of this immersive experience and be along the ride of the story with whatever your capital investment is, right? And like I think that's something that's extremely powerful. I think a lot of different projects, they kind of err on the side of like, you know, you reward your largest holders, but you get rewarded in different ways in this project, which is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I wouldn't have been in this project had I not stumbled upon the video. And I think you guys are doing some really good content, putting it out there so people can understand this project. The more that I've got into it, there's a lot of projects that I've been in. I get in, get out. They don't keep my attention, but at least with this project, knowing who's involved in it, knowing like it takes time to build anything, but a business, I mean, you're 3 to 5 years before you really have a business. And so I don't know, it just makes me feel more comfortable knowing who's involved, how much money they've got raised, the people behind it, you know, and the projects that are in here. If I was going to focus on projects, I'm probably going to be here because I just feel safe. But yeah, I appreciate you. You know, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one big thing that a lot of people don't really know about 10KTF is that Possible Productions was actually founded by Michael Figge, and he's worked with some of the largest celebrities that, you know, you can even think of. Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, you know, he's done the Super Bowl halftime show multiple times. He had a contact with Kanye West when he was 20 years old. So this guy is like a mega genius that they do all the like visual graphics. And even if you look up the what is it, the big game League of Legends, they do a big finals, and they did like a fully immersive interactive like stage with like AI dragon, and he's the guy who is behind all of that. So they aren't just running a business that, you know, just started overnight. These guys are, you know, pioneers in the space that have built several multi-million-dollar companies, and they're very heavily connected. I mean, to think of a project that, you know, doesn't have a lot of, I guess, capital raise, but looking at their website, we knew labs.xyz, and looking at all their partners, nobody partners with Sound Ventures with Ashton Kutcher, and nobody partners with Coinbase or Polygon or FTX or the Animoca brand, you know, by not having some experience. And then to be connected with, you know, brands as big as Puma and also Gucci and Louis Vuitton, like, this is no joke. Like, these guys have the capacity to really run this thing to the top. And what I really love is that they're not focused on the floor price or pumping it up or, you know, diving into any of this. It's never been part of their storyline to tell people their connections or who they're partnered with. It's always been like, you know, the community that's unveiling all of this stuff for everybody else.
That's outstanding. You know, obviously, it's great to buy into a project that like delivers all these grandeur promises or is going to do this revolutionary stuff in the space. But I think that at this point, we've seen a lot of promises go unfulfilled from different projects, and so we like to buy into people. And clearly, the team here is like absolutely worth buying for. I do have to say, before we go any further in the show, if you were watching this and you enjoy this content, the number one thing you can do is tell a friend about it. The number two thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're on Twitter, give us a retweet, and make sure you check out CryptoDilly's page. We'll have the links to their YouTube and everything like that, Speculation Alley, in our description. My last question for you, CryptoDilly, is a simple one. Whether it's you or someone else, just from a high level, what would be the one reason to buy into 10KTF? Like, what is the why here? It can be empirically based, or, you know, something that you feel, or your specialty speculation at that. Let us know.
I mean, from a conviction standpoint, I think that, you know, it's the project that I'm very confident in that we'll be building 10 years down the road. And I think that that's something that's, you know, not lightly taken. And I mean, the only that's what I really buy into is I want to like buy into a project that has, you know, a good core team that you have a future vision of seeing yourself play out like way down the line. And for a lot of the projects, I don't feel that, you know, sense of effort, but really what keeps you around is the community. Once you dive in and you start to build these connections and you tap in, you almost get into like this echo chamber of 10KTF, like sleuths and, you know, hardcore, like 10KTF or die, right? Like
sure.
if you get connected with all those people, it's the most genuine group of individuals that I've ever, you know, been around. And to meet them in person and go to these like in real life events and stuff like that, it's truly something special. And there's a magic about it because I mean, in the most nerdy way, it's like going and hanging out with your friends and being able to connect about something that's completely, you know, not real life, right? It's something of the digital era.
Absolutely, man. Community sustains us, brother. You know, that's proven throughout history, no matter where you look. Hofstra, what else you got for us?
We could probably talk about this all night. I have so many questions, man. Like offline, I'm gonna definitely be in the Discord, and I can say that's true. When I got in there and I was asking questions, everybody was helpful, and nobody made fun of me because I didn't know they actually were, you know, really there to help me. So
no one made fun of you that you knew of, right?
Like a Solana Discord, man. You go in there and they start like shaming you through memes, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like I bought a cool cat, and I felt like I had to run home to, you know, my 10KTF Discord because like I asked a question and they're like, who is this guy asking about?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I definitely echo that.
Yeah, with like 10K I think that's something that's really special is like you can go in there and feel comfortable. And we all know that it's very complex. Like there's so many different layers and there's so many components to the story. And that's why it's important that the community has actually built out a lot of different mediums to, transpose this knowledge in different forms. That's not just video format, but also, written format and different things like that to make it so it's easily consumable.
Yeah, I don't have another question. I think the last statement, and I wrote a little tweet thread, how I kind of feel like this is the new entertainment. And it's so new and groundbreaking. Maybe we don't understand what's happening. But like, if you look at the amount of time that you're spending in your engagement and your attachment to a project like this, I've not been in it as long as you have, but I can see like that's kind of what triggered me was like, this is going to be where things are going. This is the new
100%.
movie. This is how you are going to get your entertainment. It's going to be, part tweet, part, Discord, part, video, all of these different things. And what I feel like 10KTF is one big experiment. I think it's a Web3 experiment. And I kind of just, I think they're going to create the foundation, and I think other people are going to see when it works, because it hasn't officially like blown up yet. I mean, it's a big project, but a lot of people don't know it.
Here's something that's really fascinating that somebody that may not have been involved in 10KTF for a long time may not have been around to experience, but it's storytelling in a different way. And something that Michael Figge talks about is like the metaverse. A lot of people think that you're going to be wearing this haptic suit with goggles and running on a treadmill, right?
Sure.
Like that's probably not reality. And what he talks about is that the metaverse is less apparatus and more story. We're in the metaverse. We're sitting here online in 3 different states talking to each other about a old man called Wagmi-san who's a digital craftsman, right? Like that's the metaverse. And one thing that's really amazing and immersive is they did a presentation where the Michael Figge's giving a presentation to us on Twitch. Okay, so they're streaming on Twitch. The whole community's watching on Twitch, but at the same time, we're also on Discord. And all of a sudden, these tweets start coming out of this battle that's happening behind the 10KTF shop. And it's all the different gangs. They meet up and they're like fighting it out. Well, a stray arrow gets shot. That's a flaming arrow and lands in Wagmi-san's shop. And as the arrow lands in Wagmi-san's shop from Twitter, well, we see the Discord. All the channels start deleted. All the different server, like they start catching on fire, right?
Yeah.
And so everything's on fire. And we're all the way down to one channel on Discord, and everybody's just memeing like fire, right? And as this is happening, Michael Figge giving the presentation on Twitch is like, oh no, I sorry, and like the stream cuts off because like it goes to like the blank screen with all the lights and like it says this program has been disconnected, right? So it's like the shop caught on fire. Figge was giving this presentation and it was the most perfect rug, right? Where it's like he was about to tell us about the whole project and unleash everything, but right at that time where he's about to tell us everything and give us the alpha, like the stream stops, and it's because the shop had caught on fire and he had to leave. Right.
That's awesome.
What project has done such an immersive storytelling experience on 3 different social media platforms ongoing all at the same time? And as well as the 3 different platforms, their website, also the shop catches on fire on the website and starts smoking. So it's just one of those things. And whenever the shop catches on fire, no longer can you go in and craft items because the shop's decommissioned. He doesn't have his tools and the ability to craft items, so the shop's no longer open, right? And so they're not actually allowing the community to buy more items or even create a revenue stream during this time, but that's all because it's part of the story. So I think that's something that's interesting about what you said, is that I do believe that this is the next big media push. I think the way that mass adoption will take place with NFTs is through video games, and what we're going to see is they're not going to be called NFTs. They'll be digital collectibles the same way that you see with like Fortnite, where people are buying skins, but rather than than you being able to buy a skin from the item shop, it'll actually be a NFT that's stored in your vault, which is actually a digital wallet that is then obviously a public ledger that can be transferred, traded, and sold on the marketplace. And when that actually takes form, you're going to see, mass adoption on a different level, but you're also going to see interoperability between chains where you can use the same item from this game in a different game. And that's what's beautiful about what Other Side is doing, is it's not a game. It's a platform that's being built out, and games will be built on that platform. And they'll be able to use items from the shop, the Agora, within that, and they'll have the same mechanics within different games. So if you have a flamethrower in one game, you could also take that because it's connected to your wallet and use that in a different game that's built on the same platform.
Yeah, man. I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole all night. But if you want to hear more about Speculation Alley, I've got this pulled up right here. This is their YouTube. CryptoDilly, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. I know your partner A-Bomb couldn't join us, but he's on all of these, and there's really good content. And if you want to learn more about the project, I'm sure they can find you on Twitter, and then definitely check out their YouTube. And we really appreciate your time. I know you got a flight coming up, so thank you so much. And that's all. I don't have any more questions for you.
I just want to say thanks for having me on. It was really good to meet both of you guys and kind of dive deep into 10KTF. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it. So definitely, hit me up on Twitter if you guys have questions, or if you have more, information or anything that you're curious about. Definitely join the Discord and hit us up.
That sounds great. Until next time, everybody. Peace.